After that, at 10 to midnight, there's Midjour of Ultravox and Jack Bruce, formerly of Cream. Now, at 20 past 10, here's the news, read by Richard Baker.
Yasser Arafat says goodbye to Beirut, but he warns the Israelis our fight goes on. Poland's military might on the streets tonight, the eve of Solidarity's anniversary. The actress Ingrid Bergman is dead. And the test of nerves, success for a newcomer, but can England do it? The PLO leader, Yasser Arafat, has finally left the Lebanese capital, Beirut, but he said, "We will keep fighting Israel until we win." He sailed for Greece with an international naval escort, and from there he's expected to go on to Tunisia. It was an emotional departure. Beirut had been his home and his organization's base for the past 12 years. Syrian troops, too, have started pulling out of Beirut. They're expected to join the Syrian forces stationed in eastern Lebanon around the Bekaa Valley. Our correspondent in the Lebanese capital is Keith Graves.
Mr. Arafat put a brave face on his departure, calling on Lebanese Muslim leaders to say farewell, and then stopping to indulge in some emotional scenes with Palestinian civilians who will stay on in Beirut. But his farewell protestations that he and his organization have achieved a great military victory ring hollow. Most of his men are now scattered around the Arab world. No Arab government wants to go through what Lebanon has suffered over the past decade, and he is unlikely again to lead a unified organization. He took refuge in Lebanon 12 years ago, when Beirut was the beautiful and prosperous capital of the Middle East. He leaves it shattered and bombed. It was perhaps fitting that his final short journey to the dockside was through an area devastated not by recent Israeli action, but by 7 years of civil war his presence brought about. He was to have inspected a guard of honor. In the event, the chaos that had marked the PLO's sojourn in Lebanon marked Mr. Arafat's final minutes on Lebanese soil. Also leaving today were the regular Syrian army units trapped in Beirut by the Israeli siege. They came in 7 years ago as a peacekeeping force and stayed as an army of occupation. This was another major step towards ending the conflict in Lebanon, because the Israelis had said that until the Syrians went, they would not even consider pulling back from their positions around Beirut.
The Syrian army is gone from Beirut, but that's not the end of the story. A few miles up the road, 25,000 Syrian regulars face a similar number of Israelis on Lebanon's eastern front in the Bekaa Valley. In the long term, the situation there is potentially far more dangerous than the siege of Beirut ever was. Stopping that confrontation from boiling over is now the main task of the peacemakers.
It's not going to be easy. 1,500 Palestinian fighters evacuated from Beirut yesterday immediately took up positions facing the Israelis in the Bekaa. And today the Israelis complained that already some of them had broken the tenuous ceasefire there. The battle for Beirut may be over. The same cannot yet be said of the war in Lebanon.
Warsaw Radio has put out a warning to the people of Poland that the armed forces may be called in if there are violent demonstrations tomorrow, the second anniversary of the now banned trade union Solidarity. Tonight, dozens of armoured cars and water cannon are out on the streets of Warsaw to discourage demonstrators. Our Europe correspondent, Tim Sebastian.
The Polish authorities had kept their bluntest warning in reserve, but today they drove it through the streets of Warsaw publicly and for maximum effect. One of the largest displays of military force in the capital for months. The state warned today that units throughout the country would use direct force if necessary. Any demonstration was illegal, summary trials and sackings could follow. Police had already sealed off a makeshift shrine in Warsaw's Victory Square. It's been a focus of protest since martial law was imposed. Now the people go elsewhere. Throughout the crisis, Poles have sought comfort from the church, but that hasn't meant acquiescence. Many seem likely to follow the underground's call to demonstrate. For them, pressure from the authorities has only strengthened the desire for victory, the same victory they thought they'd achieved 2 years ago.
3 suspected members of an outlawed Irish terrorist group have been charged in France tonight with possessing arms and explosives. The 3, arrested in Paris at the weekend, are said to be members of the Irish National Liberation Army. They include Michael Plunkett, once the General Secretary of the Irish Republican Socialist Party. The others are Stephen King and Mary Reid. All were born in the Irish Republic. The 2 men are still wanted there for failing to appear at the Anti-Terrorist Criminal Court. All 3 were arrested in Paris by a specialist squad of police commandos who raided a block of flats. It's alleged they were planning attacks on British officials and property in France and other countries. The police say they found hidden inside the building a large quantity of explosives and documents connecting them to terrorist activities. They're expected to appear in a court probably tomorrow. Ingrid Bergman has died in London after a long fight against cancer. Her death came on her 67th birthday, which she spent with her former husband, Lars Schmidt. Ingrid Bergman's long career included films like Gaslight and For Whom the Bell Tolls, although it was Casablanca with Humphrey Bogart that gave her probably her best-known role. Her private life, when she had an affair with director Roberto Rossellini, shocked the American public, but it's for moments like this in Casablanca that she'll be remembered.
Play it once, Sam, for all time's sake.
I don't know what you mean, Miss Elsa.
Play it, Sam. Play as time goes by.
Oh, I can't remember it, Miss Elsa. I'm a little rusty on it.
I'll hum it for you. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Sing it, Sam.
You must remember this. A kiss is just a kiss. A sigh is just a sigh. The fundamental things apply as time goes by.
Late last year, in a lecture at the National Film Theatre, Miss Bergman said she had no idea Casablanca would become a classic because she was told so little about her part during the filming.
I asked them, do I love my husband or do I love Humphrey Bogart? Because Paul Henry played my husband. And they said, we don't know. We haven't made up our minds yet. Play it in between. So, very often when I see that movie, I can see my face and it has no expression whatsoever.
Ingrid Bergman. A Soviet cargo ship is expected to dock in Glasgow in just over an hour to pick up the first batch of turbines for the Siberian gas pipeline. They're being made by John Brown Engineering, who are defying the American embargo on the direct orders of the government. But it's far from certain that they'll be able to complete the £104 million order, as Michael Cole reports.
Heavy weather in the Mull of Kintyre has delayed the Soviet freighter, so it will be tomorrow morning before Britain actually breaks the American embargo by beginning to load on board the first 6 turbines for the gas pipeline. Components for the Soviet order were still arriving at Glasgow docks today, as it's not a bank holiday in Scotland. The contract's worth £104 million. John Brown Engineering relies on General Electric of America for the turbine's central core rotors, and alternative supplies will be difficult to get. The crates on the quayside are crucial to the future of John Brown, but the company is not in a particularly strong commercial position. With 12 subsidiary companies in the United States, John Brown Engineering is particularly vulnerable to the presidential blacklist. The company's best hope is that the British government will underwrite any losses it makes as a result of the American action, though this could end up costing the British taxpayer many millions of pounds in compensation. The government seems prepared for such a costly option while still hoping for a diplomatic face-saving solution for all concerned. Otherwise, the prospects for the 1,700 John Brown workers are bleak indeed.
Still in Glasgow, a baby boy has been found to be dead in hospital after being taken there by police van. Ambulance men in the city are on strike, although they're expected to go back tomorrow. The baby, Colin Money, aged 15 months, is believed to have had whooping cough. Revel Alderson reporting.
Police say an official inquiry is likely to be held into the incident, which came on the third day of a pay row involving ambulancemen in the centre of Glasgow. Shortly after 4 o'clock this morning, the police were called because little Colin Money, who was 15 months old, was having difficulty in breathing. He had been suffering from whooping cough. The police put him into a van and took him to the nearby York Hill Children's Hospital, where he was pronounced dead on arrival. The police had no resuscitation equipment on the van, nor were they trained in its use. More than 130 calls have been handled by police since the dispute began, but it's expected the ambulance crews will return to work in the morning following a compromise worked out this afternoon with management. But pickets will still be in action because Newpie men all over Scotland go on a 4-day strike from midnight. They make up about a third of the ambulance service. And in some areas, control staff are also walking out, leaving police to deal with 999 calls.
The final test looks wide open tonight after England's batting collapsed at Headingley. The newcomer, Graham Fowler, produced a fine innings, and England looked set for an easy victory over Pakistan. But when bad light stopped play, they still needed 29 runs with 4 wickets left. A report on an exciting day's play by Michael Blakey.
At stake for Fowler was the tour to Australia, and Imran Khan gave him a severe examination. He passed with honours, playing with tremendous confidence under enormous pressure.
Nicely placed, got well over the top of that, kept it down, and it's raced away to the boundary just behind point.
That's another cracking square cut. There's this shot extremely well. It's been a feature of his innings here today.
Mudassar, who destroyed the batting at Lord's, came on. With 9 wickets left, England needed only 51, a mere formality.
And that's out. Fowler has gone just 14 short of what would have been a century in his debut test. Out for 86.
5 wickets crashed for the addition of just 21 runs.
Oh, that must be out. Mudassar again to go. Oh, well bowled. That's kept low and he's out. Yes. Getting once again LBW. How many times does he get out LBW? Caught on the back foot again. And he's out. And Imran struck again. Another bit confident shout. Rundle goes LBW for naught. 189 for 6.
So there's still plenty of drama left in this match. Tomorrow England want 29 runs. Pakistan need 4 wickets.
At Crystal Palace, the British men's 800 metres relay team were attempting a new world record. Sebastian Coe ran the last leg. David Coleman, the commentator.
The crowd know the world record is there for the taking. Coe relaxing coming into the wind, trying to save himself. And in the main grandstand, they're on their feet, trying to help. 7:08.1 to beat, and the world record is smashed.
Coe, with Gary Cook, Peter Elliott and Steve Cram, did a celebratory lap of honour. Their new record almost 5 seconds better than the old. Weapons captured from the Argentines on the Falkland Islands have been put on show to the public in Portsmouth. Thousands of people turned up to see them, as well as British vessels involved in the conflict. John Andrews reports.
The naval dockyards at Portsmouth traditionally open their gates to the public on August bank holiday, but the event was cancelled this year because of the pressure of work resulting from the Falklands crisis. Then, at the last minute, the Navy relented, and nearly 100,000 people have poured in to see ships like the Hermes, which are now household names, and they've broken all attendance records. The biggest attraction of all proved to be the helicopters at Chinook and Sea King, captured from the Argentinians. And the children took over a scout car taken during the battle at Goose Green. Also finding itself unexpectedly in the limelight was HMS Londonderry, one of 5 frigates which, it was announced today, is being brought out of mothballs to extend the Navy's submarine watch in the North Atlantic.
Finally, the Bank Holiday Carnival at Notting Hill in West London looks like... Finally, the Bank Holiday Carnival at Notting Hill in West London looks like continuing well into the night. For the second day running, it's attracted huge crowds. Bill Hamilton was there.
The afternoon forecast was for heavy showers, but for the most part the weather matched the mood of the second day of this warm and colourful Caribbean fiesta. This has been one of the best attended, best organised and best funded carnivals Notting Hill has experienced. And the tens of thousands who danced and swayed their way through the streets have also been among the best behaved. The only job no one wanted was to have to judge just who was the best dressed person around town. As for the message to keep things cool, well, that was clearly getting across. By nightfall, the rain had come, but after 2 days of non-stop revelry, hardly anyone noticed it. The fun and noise of this carnival is sure to continue well into the small hours.
But we are calling it a day in the newsroom, so I'll say good night to you.
Good evening to you. Well, these cold northwesterlies brought a lot of showers across the country today, some thunderstorms as well, but things are changing fairly quickly. The ridge of high pressure is coming in now, killing all the showers, and behind that, hurrying in, these fronts are going to bring some rain to northern and western parts during tomorrow. You can see the cloud on that front on tonight's satellite picture. That was actually taken at 4 o'clock this afternoon, although I call it tonight's. There's the warm front, the cold front stretching away into the Atlantic, and all these are shower clouds that streamed down over the country quite late in the day before they got down to the southeast here in bands, and 1 or 2 thunderstorms on the east coast at that time. All of those dying away now, this cloud coming on, so that by tomorrow morning I don't think we'll have very many showers left down the eastern side. They'll die away fairly quickly. 1 or 2 up there in the far northeast. But rain already into Northern Ireland, into parts of it by morning, will spread on into western Scotland there, and during the afternoon across to eastern Scotland, where it might well be a bright start, and also moving down into the northern part of England here, perhaps as far as the North Midlands by the end of the day. A little bit of drizzle down this western coast. You'll find it a little warmer tomorrow. You'll find the wind not nearly as keen. That's it. Good night to you.
In a moment, the Edinburgh military tattoo.
Tomorrow at 8 o'clock on BBC1, Esther Ranson reports on 24 hours in the public and private lives of the animals in London Zoo.
Here, in 36 acres in Regent's Park, the word zoo was invented. It was founded 150 years ago to study new and curious subjects of the animal kingdom.
George, you love this orangutan.
Well, all right then. I love this orangutan. But strictly speaking, you mustn't nick Esther's bag. No, that's a naughty girl.
A Day at the Zoo is tomorrow at 8 o'clock.
Now on BBC1 from Edinburgh Castle, highlights of the Edinburgh military tattoo of 1982. The commentator is Tom Fleming.
With the fanfare ramparts of Edinburgh, we welcome you to the Edinburgh military tattoo of 1982.